I'm really excited because this is gonna be my first video ever. So I thought that I would come at y'all with my flawless complexion routine. So this is gonna be my foundation, contour, highlight, and everything, really focusing on the skin for when I need it to last all night, be kind of full coverage. I do this kind of foundation for special events, brides a lot of the time, and just for any nights that I'm going out and I need my makeup to stay on all night long and not patch and not crease and basically just not fall off of my face in the middle of the night. Bonus, this makeup looks awesome in photos, so this is my go-to. My skin is already cleaned and moisturized and ready for makeup. First things first, I'm gonna prime the skin. This is probably one of the most important steps because it's gonna make sure that your makeup goes on flawlessly, and with the bright primer, it'll stay on all night. You wanna make sure that you're priming for your skin type. I'm using the Urban Decay Optical Illusion Complexion Primer. I have combination skin. I really don't have problem skin. I sometimes get dry patches, but for the most part, I have a pretty normal skin type. So I know that some people that have oilier skin than I do have complained that this primer can break them out. So beware of that if you want to try it out. This one is really designed to smooth out your skin, blur your pores, kind of fill your pores a little bit, but it's not as thick and heavy as like a traditional pore filling primer. I kind of like to warm up this primer between my fingers and really just press it on the skin so that I can make sure that it's really filling my pores and smoothing everything out. So now that my skin is completely primed, I'm actually gonna set my primer with a little bit of this Coty Airspun translucent loose setting powder. But I'm just gonna take a little bit on a powder puff and kind of just press it, especially into my T-zone. This is an awesome tip for all my oily skinned folks out there. This step just seriously makes whatever foundation I'm using go on just so much more flawlessly, and definitely makes it last. It's gonna make it last on your skin a lot longer. I actually first learned that trick from Jackie Aina, so shout out to you. I love your videos. I'm like a huge fan. For my base today, I'm gonna be using two different foundations and mixing them. I absolutely love this Smashbox Studio Skin Full Coverage Foundation. I know that I said that this makeup was going to be pretty full coverage, but this foundation, y'all, is like spackle. It will cover absolutely everything and just give you a completely blank canvas to work with. So if that's what you're looking for, this is my go-to, and it will absolutely last all night. For me, it's really, really heavy. So I'm gonna also mix it with my Makeup Forever Ultra HD, which is designed as a medium coverage foundation. It's somewhat buildable. I found that mixing these two together gives me this exact type of skin I'm looking for. Since this Smashbox foundation is so full coverage, I'm gonna use like a 2-to-1 ratio. So I'll probably do about two small pumps of this Makeup Forever and about half of that amount of the Smashbox and mix it together. So I'm just gonna mix the two on the back of my hand with the opposite end of a brush. Now that I have my two foundations mixed on the back of my hand, I'm just gonna go in with this IT Cosmetics foundation brush and just start to blend it into my skin. I'm first sort of using stippling motions, and then after it's applied, then I can kind of go in with my circular motions to make sure it's blended out. If your foundation is a little bit darker like mine is, since we're transitioning seasons, do not forget to blend it down the neck so you don't have that harsh line of demarcation right there. That's like a dead giveaway. You don't want people to call you out in the streets for having the janky foundation. I've been that girl back in the day, but I had to go through it so y'all don't have to. So I don't really bring my foundation all the way up to my under eyes because I'm going to be highlighting in that area with concealer. And I find that if you're layering concealer on top of foundation in such a sensitive and thin area like your under eyes, it tends to start to look a little cakey. And the more product you have underneath your eyes, the more likely it's going to start to crease. This is my really extra step when I want to make sure that my base is perfect, and that is to go in with my Real Technique sponge and kind of take it and press my foundation into the skin. Doing this on top of the brushwork that we just did is going to not only make sure that your foundation is as flawless as possible, but also really just press it into the skin one more time, which will automatically increase your wear time. So before we go into any highlighting, I'm going to do just a tiny bit of liquid contour. For this, I'm using the Maybelline Fit Me Concealer in number 50 Cafe. I've tried so many cream contours, but drugstore favorite, y'all. It's just a great product. And it's like, what, $7? It is intense though, since it's a concealer. So like I said, I'm just gonna be doing a tiny bit. So I'm just doing a little line following my natural contour line. A lot of people make the mistake or don't get the results they want because they're bringing their contour up too high or too low. And either way, you're kind of just gonna bring down your face because you're creating what are kind of unnatural shadows. Quick tip I learned from Scott Barnes, JLo's makeup artist. A little bit of contour right underneath my bottom lip. So when it's blended out, my lips are gonna look fuller and a little more pouty. I'm mostly going to use powder to contour my nose. Since I kind of already have a small nose, I'm just gonna add just a little bit of the cream contour just right on the tip underneath, because that's where I want it to be the most intense, to kind of lift my nose, upturn it a little bit. So first, to blend that out, I'm gonna go in with this MAC 130 brush. So I'm kind of using a combination of upward pressing motions and circular buffing motions. So now that I've got that decently blended in with my stippling brush, I'm gonna go back in with my Real Technique sponge and again, just kind of make sure it's completely blended out and pressed into the skin and blended with the rest of my foundation. This is kind of an area where you can cheat a little and make a little bit of corrections. Or if your cream contour is a little too heavy in some areas, the leftover product on your sponge from before can kind of help you blend that out and soften it a little bit. So now that all of my cream contour is done, I'm gonna go in with my concealer and do some highlighting. Now that all my cream contour is done, I'm gonna go ahead and get into highlighting. I'm using the Maybelline Instant Age Rewind Concealer in the Neutralizer shade. So this is pretty yellow. I like that for my skin tone because I have a lot of purple underneath my eyes that I want to counteract. It's actually pretty coincidental that all my cream contour and highlight products are drugstore Maybelline, but shout out to Maybelline. So I'm just taking a little bit of that Age Rewind on the back of my hand. I'm going to go in with a flat concealer brush. This little fluffy head that comes on the product is okay, but it's not my favorite, so we're gonna go in with a brush. If you're placing your concealer correctly when you're highlighting, you're not gonna need a whole ton of it. I've found that people tend to think the more you use, the better it's gonna look when you're going out and you want a really full coverage look. In reality, we're really just trying to neutralize and eliminate the problems that we have with our skin. For real, we don't need to cake a whole ton of product onto our face in order to get the best results. I'm gonna show you exactly how I place my highlight to get the best results using the least product. So just taking a little bit of that concealer on the back of my flat brush, I'm just going to place a little bit. Kaya. I'm going to start in the area where I want the most coverage because the most product is going to come off the brush as soon as you pack it on there. So I'm placing right underneath my eye at the front. Do a little more here and here. And I'm gonna bring it onto the side of my nose, just the excess that's on my brush, because it's going to help create my contour. So I have that kind of triangular shape that we want. Just repeating the same pattern on the other side. Placing a little bit on my chin, between my brows, going onto my forehead so that I can highlight and kind of create my own forehead shape. And then definitely straight down the middle of my nose. So now that it's all placed, I'm gonna blend with my Real Technique sponge. I'm just tapping on the outer edge first. Same thing on the chin and on my forehead. So I like to take the excess on my sponge and go right underneath where my contour is, just to brighten up that area and really define what I did earlier. So I blend out the highlight on the bridge of my nose last because concealer gives you the most coverage wherever it sits the longest before you blend it out, if that makes sense. So it's really important to me that the placement of my highlight on the bridge of my nose stays exactly where I put it, even when I add my contour powder later. But I'm just gonna go ahead and blend that out, but yeah, that's why it's my last step. If it's too bright or too intense, you can kind of roll your sponge as you blend it, and it'll kind of bring it onto the sides just a little bit. Make sure there's no harsh lines on the outside. So like I said before, I'm going to immediately set my cream highlight with the Coty Airspun Loose Translucent Setting Powder. I'm gonna take some on my sponge, and we are gonna bake today just because this is flawless complexion, y'all. We wanna make sure that nothing goes anywhere, nothing's creasing, everything stays exactly how it looked when you first put it on your face. But we are going to lightly bake. We're not gonna be too crazy with it. So I've got my powder on my sponge, and I'm just going to press that in right underneath my eyes. I lied to myself and to y'all when I said we were gonna lightly bake. I said lightly bake, and we have powder all the way down the face. Don't even listen to me. I'm just taking a little MAC 239 flat brush, and it's really flat and thin, so this, in my opinion, is the perfect brush to set that nose bridge highlight. I'm going to dip that in my powder. So I'm just pressing it exactly where I put that concealer. Snatched. Yes. Should I leave it like this? So now I'm just taking that same powder puff from earlier and a little bit more powder, and I'm going to press that in to the rest of my face. This step is non-negotiable. I don't know how people go out all night long or get married or whatever and don't set their foundation. It doesn't matter what product I'm using. That junk would melt off my face in 15 minutes if I didn't set it. So while all of that is baking on my face, I'm going to use a round fluffy brush and that same concealer and prep my eyelids for any shadows that I'm gonna be putting on afterwards. Concealing my eyelids changes the game for my face. Even if I'm not wearing eyeshadow, I will absolutely do this. After my eyelids are concealed, I'm gonna take a little bit more of my Coty powder on this kind of flat, fluffy brush and set that concealer. The reasons that I set my eyelid concealer is twofold. First, because I want to prevent creasing. And second, because I know that I'm going to be going over my eyelids with powder products, with eyeshadows, and if I don't set it at least a little bit, I kind of went in right now, but at least a little bit, those powders are going to cling to the cream products and patch and skip, and that's how you get eyeshadow that's a hot mess. Next, I'm gonna move on to powder contour, and I'm using this fluffy angled brush and my very well-loved Kat Von D Shade+Light contour palette. I'm going to be dipping into the first and middle color. As you can see, I've absolutely worn out these two middle shades, this banana powder and this medium contour powder. These are awesome products. Kat did that with these powders. So just taking a little on this fluffy brush, not too much because we already cream contoured, but going over that, pressing upwards, this will help to just diffuse everything and really start to just make the entire face look cohesive. Blending up around my temples, like I said I was going to do before. I'm starting to go into my hairline contour. Same thing on the opposite side. Now that I've got everything connected here on my temples, I'm going to take a little bit more contour powder and really lightly start to buff that around my hairline, paying attention to the shape I want to create. So now I'm gonna take that same contour under my chin and right underneath my jawline, which I'm going to bring down. Some of these steps are so extra. Feel free to eliminate, skip, modify any steps that you want to. I'm just showing you every single thing that I would do to get the best results. Moving right along to nose contour, one of my favorite parts. I'm going to be using the same Kat Von D contour powder and this Luxie 207 medium angled brush. This is my favorite type of brush for contouring my nose because it's fluffy enough to where I can kind of get those diffused blended edges, and it's angled so it'll perfectly fit into the natural contour of my nose. So not taking too much product, I start at the top of my nose, right in here, and I want to make sure that I'm bringing my nose contour all the way in and underneath my brow bone at the very tip. A lot of times I see people kind of just stick to just the sides of their nose, and that I feel is what can lead your nose contour to looking unnatural or unfinished and kind of disconnected from the rest of your face. I think as a painter, I have a painting background, I tend to look at the face as one whole unit rather than looking at the eyes, the mouth, the nose, and the cheeks as isolated parts. So I think looking through that lens can really help create a really unified, seamless finished product. I'm just bringing this contour down the sides of my nose really gently. I like to take the tiniest bit of powder on my brush and kind of just go right across the bridge of my nose, right above the tip. Doing this along with contouring right underneath my nose is going to give that kind of upturned button nose effect without being too intense. It might even look that way right now because I haven't taken away the powder, but when that's done, I can kind of brush away the excess powder. And I like to even pull the powder that was on the sides of my nose upwards and into the contour because it's going to just blend it out completely and make it look like that's my nose shape and like I didn't just draw on a new nose. So now that my contour is completely finished, I'm going to be using just a little bit of bronzer on a big fluffy MAC brush. This one is the MAC 150. I'm just going to be using a little bit of my Too Faced Chocolate Soleil bronzer in medium. And I'm using a big fat brush because I don't want this to be specific and targeted like my contour was. The goal is more to create an overall warmth to the face and kind of just bronze up the perimeter and bring everything together. One of my favorite steps of my entire complexion routine is blush. I really want this look to be soft and feminine. I'm not gonna be doing anything too bright and bold and colorful, but feel free to use literally whatever type of blush, whatever shades you want for this. I'm just gonna be going in first with my Pixi Beauty Beach Rose blush. It's like a really pretty mauve-y neutral on this fluffy Tarte brush. I'm going to start almost on the apples of my cheeks, and I'm going to lightly start swiping upwards. For my face shape, I love to bring my blush up, but to be quite honest, I do this on most of my clients. Placing your blush on an upwards angle along where your bronzer and contour was is going to kind of pull your face upwards and lift you just a little bit. Placing blush exclusively on the apples of your cheeks is going to definitely create a rounder look to your face. I literally do not need my face to be any more round than it already is. So to just further contribute to that soft look, I'm gonna be using one of my favorite blushes. Again, Maybelline, like what is up? I swear I did not plan this. It's a Maybelline day. I'm using the Maybelline Fit Me blush, shade 25. I believe it's literally just called Pink. Oh, Pink Rose. But I'm just lightly tapping my brush in. And this one, I'm gonna focus a little bit higher and actually on the apples of my cheeks a little bit more. And I'm basically just topping my last blush with this one. A lot of times I do take my excess blush and I just go right over the bridge of my nose, just kind of quickly, just a little bit. Kind of just warms your face up and looks really cute. Most days I will just use setting spray on my face once at the end of my makeup when everything's finished, but for my flawless complexion, when I want everything to just really stay and be beautiful and kind of melt the powders into each other and look like skin again, I will go in with a little bit of setting spray before I do my highlight so that it pops a little more, and before I do brows, eyes, lips, whatever else. So I'm just gonna take a tiny bit of the Morphe Continuous Setting Mist. This, I think, is their collaboration with Sweetie. This one smells like peach. Oh yeah, sweet peach. That's so cute. It's like a really intense smell, so if you don't like fragrances, be mindful of that, but I do, and I love peach, so thanks, Sweetie. So I'm gonna take that same angled brush from Sephora and a little bit of this Dior pressed highlight. I don't really know what the shade is, but I'll leave it in the description. And I'm just going to sweep that on to the highest point of my cheekbones. I'm gonna press the excess just right above the arches of my brows. Nothing too crazy, but this is so pretty, this step, and it just really lifts my whole face up. I'm just gonna take my pinky finger in that highlight just a little bit and tap that on the very tip of my nose. Now I'm just brushing my brow hairs upward and just place a tiny bit of highlight right underneath the highest point of my brow arch. So this is pretty much it for the skin. I'm gonna go do my brows and pop on some falsies off camera, and I'll be right back to finish up with lips. I'm back with my brows on and some lashes. These are just some individuals that I had, and I kind of customized them to do a really wispy, fluttery lash. That's like my favorite kind of lash. So now that everything else is done, I'm just going to finish off with this lip combo. It's the Morphe Lip Liner in the shade Bay, and then the Morphe Lip Crayon in Fomo. It's kind of like a neutral, nudie pink. So I lied. I'm gonna do one more thing to my lips, which is I'm gonna top them off just in the center with MAC Japanese Maple. I just completely dropped that lipstick and dented my powder and my lipstick at the same time, so great. Like I was saying, I'm gonna take a little bit of this dented MAC Japanese Maple and just pop it in the center of my lips to lighten it up. Okay guys, so this is the finished flawless complexion, flawless foundation look. I hope you guys loved it. I hope you guys try it out. I hope you guys have success with it. Like I said, tweak it, modify it however you want to. Make sure that you like and subscribe to my new channel and let me know whatever you want to see next. I'm totally open to anything. Let me know, and I'm excited to continue creating. Bye guys.